Oh my goodness. It's all about balance, I think, both in lifestyle and in the kitchen. But managing a career and family, that's a hard thing to do. Some people would say it's impossible. Me, Sally Schmitt, I certainly tried as one of the first California cooks to cook real California food. Talk about California cuisine. Of course, Alice Waters with Chez Panisse. Wolfgang Puck. Really big for a while. Packaged food, TV show. Thomas is another one. Thomas Keller.
I'm Thomas Keller, and this is my masterclass.
Chef Thomas Keller created and oversees some of the world's most acclaimed restaurants, including the French Laundry.
The French Laundry.
French Laundry.
The French Laundry.
The French Laundry, the best restaurant in the world. Twice they have done that.
That's Thomas Keller.
Thomas Keller has won just about every award you can imagine.
A whole constellation of Michelin stars.
Well, there was no Thomas Keller in those days. It was our French Laundry. You don't know that story? I was born in Roseville, outside of Sacramento, 1932. Major trains came through there to be iced down. My father worked for the ice plant. They made, well, huge ice cubes to keep the produce cold on the way from California to the East Coast. That was their refrigerator.
So that the fruit, oranges, apples, can be rushed to the market.
On the PFE, Pacific Fruit Express.
The lifeblood of the nation.
That was the beginning of the whole supermarket situation, and the connection with our food went missing. Everything became less local and more commercial. Meanwhile, in Roseville, we were living off the land. From lettuce to potatoes. We had a big vegetable garden. It was hard work physically, but it was a little bit of heaven. With my dad at the ice plant. My mom, she had her work cut out for her. She taught me how to take pride in being a woman. That the work we did was as important as anything that any man would do. We were a food-centric family. Parties revolved around food, braised meats, vegetables, and a lot of citrus, of course. Everything in season. It was California cuisine without ever hearing the term. And I learned at my mother's knee to produce a dinner all by myself. When I graduated from high school at 16, my father wanted me to stay at home, but my mother put her foot down and said, no, she needs to get out of here and see the rest of the world. I was a home ec major at University of California at Davis. Very academic. The science of cooking is really what they taught. What makes egg whites do what they do. But there weren't women chefs in those days. Julia Child, as we know her, didn't exist yet.
This is Julia Child. Bon appetit.
The whole goal was to get married and have a family. I had met Don. One of the reasons that I turned out to be such a good cook, he ate everything with gusto. I could try anything out on him, and he always found something good in it. Also, he liked me. We just immediately fell in love. And after a few years, we made the move from the Central Valley to Napa.
Napa Valley.
We're in Napa.
Napa Valley.
Napa Valley.
Napa Valley.
Napa Valley.
One of California's finest communities.
Napa Valley in the 1960s, good food, famous wine, buckets of money. Oh, no. No, at that time, California wines were just not very well known. Yountville, it was just a spot in the road, and then there was a thriving liquor situation. So you want to drive slowly because you don't want to run over any drunk people lying in the gutter. That's the state of the town when we moved. It wasn't a town. It became a town when we got there. We had moved with 5 children. I kind of had done my bit as a good wife and mother and was ready to, spread my wings a little further. My aim at that point was running a restaurant because I knew I could do it. So we went to look at this property, this little building that was on the corner, a sharp corner, almost out on the street, built a fieldstone. Somehow, it kept its name from years ago when it was actually a French laundry. All the crooked walls, gorgeous location. Don and I had our eye on that building from the very beginning in Yountville. But the owners didn't want to sell, so it stayed empty. Around that time, there was a big influx in Napa Valley of the next generation, I call them kids, started to work to put California wines on the map. They had very good palates, and they were hungry. It was a no-brainer. Don and I opened a little cafe. We called it the Vintage Cafe. We served hamburgers and milkshakes, fresh and really local. It was good. It became apparent that people started to come to Yountville. And Yountville, it didn't have a food scene except our cafe. So within a year or so, we had lines out the door. We just grew. Opened the chutney kitchen. Added catering, a dinner series, luncheon for the Napa Valley vintners every month. They just loved everything. But I found myself relegated to the office checking food costs. I simply didn't want to do that. I wanted to be able to stir and taste the soup. Around that time, a friend who waited on tables for us, Lorraine, came in and whispered in my ear, "Guess what, Sally? The French laundry is for sale." Well, opening a restaurant with 5 children, we were crazy. In '78, opening night, it literally kicked the carpenter out just in time for me to start prep work. I was the chef, Don, the front man, all the kids too. Kathy and Karen were on the floor as waitresses. Kathy did the flowers. Johnny was in the kitchen helping me. Eric was washing dishes, and Terry, our youngest, helped as well. It was pretty much a family operation. $12 per person, going big time. I was successful in putting everything together in the right place. Start complex, follow it with simple, and then more complex. Texture, color, flavor, balance, local ingredients, everything in season, and then pile it high with good conversation. It was a little bit of heaven. One of my compliments that I cherish the most was when somebody tells me that they ate dinner with us at the French Laundry years ago. They'd say, I couldn't tell you just what we had. We started out with gingered shrimp with mustard and chutney. And then there was that beautiful duck liver pate. For the entree, there was a choice of braised oxtails or Zanzibar duck, and then followed by a fresh salad with just lemon juice and olive oil. For dessert, cheesecake and coffee pot de creme. You want more? You're hungry, huh? It's fun to feed people good food. It's very pleasing. We opened full and were simply full from then on. Weddings, events, we knew everybody in the dining room. We wanted that spirit. We embraced that spirit. Julia Child came 2 or 3 times to the French Laundry at that point. As famous as any modern day chef. And one time she burst into the kitchen and said, "My dear, what was in that dessert sauce?" And I said, "Butter, sugar, and cream." She said, "Butter? I should have known."
2 sticks of unsalted butter. Delicious.
16 years we were open. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Somebody was proposing to open a French Laundry chain. He wanted to open another one in another city, San Francisco, New York, and maybe go from there. If I were to do a 3-star restaurant, I think I probably could do it if I set my mind to it, but it would throw my life out of balance. There's no way around it. And I value my lifestyle too much to fall into that trap. So the French Laundry was for sale. Entered Thomas Keller, this really charming young chef. He made a name for himself in New York, and then after a series of mishaps, he was down on his luck. I don't think he had, literally, any money. Credit cards were all maxed out, but he had a lot of friends, and he obviously had ambition and his drive. Around that time, I was in the kitchen busy, And Thomas came and leaned on my kitchen door that went out into my herb garden and stood there for a while and looked the kitchen over and nosed around outside a little. He said that night he decided that's what he wanted. This was his dream. We had our trepidation, but if he thinks he can do it, let him try. We sold it.
Chef Thomas Keller created and oversees some of the world's most acclaimed restaurants, including the French Laundry.
The French Laundry.
And it would make Keller a food world superstar and turn Yountville into a world-class destination for dining.
The best restaurant in the world.
So he did it. Went on and on and on. He's still going on and on. In high school, I was always vice president. Vice president of everything. Gave the salutatory speech in both grammar school and high school. And when we graduated, one of my best friends got the Outstanding Student of the Year or whatever, the highest honor. I went home and cried. Yeah, I thought that I should have it. You know, my mother said, let her have her moment of glory. Don't worry, there will be moments of glory for you. We were the lucky ones. We found a way of life that we enjoyed every day. And Don was always there for me until the end. I call it going out gracefully, and I think he certainly did that. But I've lived that life and have had so much satisfaction from the rewards from my family life that I don't need to be the best chef in the world. I just don't need that. Yeah. Don and I, we loved Thomas's success, and he has always honored us in ways that I don't think many people would do. What more could anyone ask for? Me, Sally Schmitt, one of the first California cooks to cook real California food. Back when there were no women chefs. But see, I didn't want to change the world. Just wanted to cook.